Hi, everyone. Welcome to another update on our expat journey. Today is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025. And so, just to let you know some of the things that have been going on for us, well, I have started making some of the payments towards the Golden Visa. Mainly that's been around the visa application fees and the first down payment. But other than that, there's been a lot of legwork around paperwork. It's all documents, documents, documents. And thankfully, I stopped working at my job a few weeks ago because there are times when working on the paperwork itself can be a full-time job. For the second update, I want to tell you a little bit about the FBI background check. You want to get started on this early. Getting the background check itself is actually quite easy, but first off, go through a private agency. When you start looking into the FBI background check, realize, hey, I can apply online through the FBI website in about 3 minutes, costs $18. Then all I need to do is go to a post office that supports fingerprinting and get that done for $50. And at first, it sounds really easy. Unfortunately, it turns out that it's not, and it's mainly around the fact that the post offices, the machines that they use for doing the fingerprinting, a lot of times don't work. Whenever I would call the post office, they were always sort of hesitant, and they're like, you can come in, we can try. We have about a 20% success rate, and it's very quick to get the FBI background check once you submit your fingerprints. I mean, it can happen literally in a matter of minutes, but by going through a private agency, you can be sure that they can actually get the fingerprints done. I wasted 3 or 4 days just trying to get it done through the post office, and at first that doesn't sound like a long time, but after you get the background check, you need to get it apostilled. This is a word that I had not heard of before. Apostilling documents. I don't know if apostilling is a correct verb, but you need to get the apostille on a bunch of the different documents that you have, like any birth certificates for children, FBI background checks, any other legal documents need this apostille, and that's the part that can take several weeks. So if you are under a time crunch like we are for trying to beat the April 2nd deadline for the Golden Visa in Spain, well, you definitely want to get the FBI background check done early and do it through a private agency so that you can get the rush order on the apostille. The apostille is going to be very, very expensive in itself, especially if you need to rush the order. If you have time, if you have a couple of months, hey, it might be $150, $200, but once you start needing it in a matter of, say, 4 to 5 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, then the cost can really start adding up for that apostille. Again, if you had asked me 3 months ago what an apostille was, I would have told you I don't know. I still don't really know. It's really, from what I understand, an official stamp by a state department, whether it is your state department or the federal government, that is saying that, yep, this is a good, valid document that proves what you say it does. Next thing to talk about, speaking of documents, again, it's documents, documents, documents. There's a lot of shipping of documents involved, and especially if you are going to be shipping things overseas, you're going to need to use DHL. So make sure that you know where your local DHL office is. Also, you might want to save yourself some time and effort and get some of the mailing envelopes for documents, maybe even some of the blank forms that you have to fill out, although you can do a lot of the forms online. But just make sure that you know where DHL is so that you're not trying to rush on the day of, where it's like, I need to get these documents, essentially next day air across an ocean. Where's DHL? Also along those same lines, For some of your documents, you're going to need UPS or FedEx. Make sure you know where the appropriate full service office is. I had a FedEx location near me, but it turns out it was only drop off. So again, on a day where I'm trying to get a lot done, you don't want to waste time going to a FedEx office and realizing that it was just a wasted trip. Also, along the line of documents, you will probably need to get a lot of documents notarized, and you can get them notarized at UPS offices. But before you try to get it done at UPS, call beforehand. Make sure the person who's actually capable of doing the notary signature is going to be in when they're going to be in. Make sure they're not at lunch. Make sure that they're not leaving early. Again, you just don't want to end up wasting half a day, or maybe you're trying to do it on a Friday and you can't make it back to until Monday when you're trying to get things done quickly and easily. Oh, and last thing to mention about all that shipping for the documents, the costs add up. It is not cheap to send something 2 days across the US, or especially 2 or 3 days to another country across the ocean. So just be mentally prepared for that. I shipped documents before and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just sending over here. It's like gonna be $20. Nope. A lot of these situations you're talking about, it's going to be $150. It's going to be $200 to ship this, especially if there is a time factor involved. But in positive news, we are now at the point where we need to schedule a trip, and we need to have our trip to Spain completed by March 17th. And so that's little over a month. We're trying to do it as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we are not doing it next week when the kid is off from school. It would have been great if we had just taken a leap of faith and planned on everything lining up for that week and being out there. But now we just need to go at some point. And we've also let go of the whole consideration around, hey, we don't want the kid to miss school. At this point, we just want to get everything done so that we can keep our schedule. And the last stuff that I want to talk about is that, with us, we're under this time pressure for getting everything done by April 2nd. So every day counts, which can result in a lot of stress and a lot of pressure. But we really want to get out of here because there's a lot of chaos in the United States right now, and this chaos is by design. This is something that the current administration had planned. They wanted to overwhelm people with the speed at which stuff is coming at them. And if you look back in the history book, some of the stuff that is going on right now is that we've got Elon Musk going into different federal agencies and taking their databases. We have shutdowns on funds being provided to people for various services that they were counting on. Just a lot of stuff, and so the chaos is intended to get people to submit, but there's also a certain amount where they're doing all these things. So you're concentrating on things like, oh my goodness, we're talking about invading Canada. We're talking about taking over Greenland. And now we're talking about going into Gaza and displacing all the Palestinians there, which are huge, serious matters. And while we're concentrating on that, there's all this other stuff going on where there's a sovereign fund being set up so the government can take control of TikTok or can do other things with the federal government's money. Or we're not going to notice that SpaceX is now getting another multi-billion-dollar contract while we're looking at other different things. But it's just that there's a lot of chaos and it can be overwhelming, which is just making us want to be safe as soon as possible. And along those lines, last week, I went to pick up the girls from Girl Scouts, and I was sitting there talking with a couple of the other dads, and, we're just having small talk, shooting the breeze, and after a few minutes, they start asking each other, and they're like, hey, so are you guys going to get Canada? And it turns out one of them was married to a Canadian citizen. And they're like, I don't know, we're trying to figure it out. And the other person, he has a family trip going on next week when the girls are out of school. And they're sort of like, yeah, we don't know, how long we're going to be here. And one of them said something that was very chilling. And he basically said that the problem is you never know how late is too late. You have a situation where you're feeling unsafe and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't want to wait an extra week, an extra month, however long before it's like, I might not be able to get out. So anyhow, that's sort of the stuff that we are dealing with. I sincerely hope, a little bit expect that maybe we are overreacting and a few months from now we realize that things, weren't that bad, but we definitely want to make sure that we prepare and are in a situation where we're not going to be regretting that we didn't take action that we could have taken. But anyhow, that is where we are. Just wanted to give you a little update. And hopefully, I don't know, maybe the next time that I'm providing an update, we'll be on an airplane or we'll be on a different continent. Talk to you later.